How does a player, once considered one of the NFL's biggest draft disappointments, end up completing one of the greatest comebacks in league history? Just a few years back, Sam Darnold's time as a starting quarterback in the NFL looked all but finished. After a brief yet disastrous tenure in New York came to an end, the hype was gone, and any hope that he'd live up to his first-round status and save the franchise had all but disappeared. Instead, it appeared that he was just another in a long line of overhyped college prospects turned bust. Today, however, that narrative has been completely flipped. In this video, we're going to take a look back at the unbelievable comeback story of Sam Darnold, from the tumultuous start of his career to the unprecedented turnaround that saw him become a Super Bowl champion. Please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Coming out of USC, Sam Darnold looked like a superstar in the making. After taking over midway through the 2016 season, he went on a tear, throwing for 31 touchdowns as a redshirt freshman and leading SC to a Rose Bowl victory in 2017. On paper, he checked all the boxes: arm strength, size, agility, and the kind of off-script playmaking every team dreams of. Which is why, when the Jets drafted him 3rd overall in 2018, the goal was clear. This was the quarterback to finally turn the franchise around after years of suffering. Instead, his early NFL years became a story of struggle, doubt, and criticism. From the moment Sam Darnold arrived in New York, the situation was rough, which, to be honest, was not a surprise, considering that the situation he entered was not a quarterback-friendly environment. During Darnold's first 3 seasons, he dealt with multiple offensive coordinators, a struggling offensive line, limited receiving options, and instability throughout the organization, and the results showed. Although there were some flashes here and there, such as his strong rookie debut, the consistency never came, and by 2020, things had hit rock bottom. That season, Darnold threw just 9 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, while posting one of the lowest QB ratings in the league, and boasting a career record of 13-25 as a starter. All of these struggles were encapsulated in 2019 in the infamous seeing ghost moments on Monday Night Football against New England, which became symbolic of his struggles in New York. From that point on, fair or not, the narrative was set. Sam Darnold was officially a bust, and by 2021, the Jets had seen enough and made the decision to move on. Darnold was ultimately shipped off to the Carolina Panthers, and despite his struggles, there were still some who believed that a fresh start could revive his career, and the early returns actually looked promising. Through the first 3 games of the season, Darnold led the Panthers to a 3-0 start, which included back-to-back 300-yard games and a win over the Jets. This hot start to the season gave people hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd finally see the version of Darnold that everyone initially hoped for. But just as things were starting to look good, reality hit. Just as we'd seen in New York, the injuries began piling up, the turnovers returned, and once again, his confidence was gone. By the end of his Panthers tenure, Darnold continued to fight the same label: talented but unreliable. And after 2 disappointing seasons in Carolina, Darnold was shown the door yet again. Given the history of the league, the odds were stacked against Darnold. Quarterbacks in his position rarely turn things around, and he looked destined for a career as a backup. But just as it looked like he had reached the point of no return, Darnold would make a decision that quietly became one of the most important stretches of his career. Rather than joining another struggling franchise, where he'd get an opportunity to play straight away, Darnold accepted a role as a backup and joined Kyle Shanahan in the 49ers. This decision would completely alter his career. During his time in San Francisco, Darnold was able to learn from one of the best offensive minds in Kyle Shanahan, while rebuilding his mechanics, and most importantly, resetting mentally, without having to deal with the pressures he had experienced during his previous stops. Darnold's resurgence in San Francisco just goes to show that sometimes the NFL doesn't reward talent first. Rather, it rewards timing, development, and the right situation, and after years of struggling, Darnold had finally found it. After taking a step back and resetting with the Niners, it opened the door for him to get another chance at being a starter in the league, and shortly after agreeing to a 1-year contract with the Vikings, fate intervened. A torn ACL to J.J. McCarthy ahead of the 24 season finally gave Darnold the starting role he had been waiting for, and this would be the moment that everything finally clicked. Over the course of the season, Darnold transformed into an entirely different player. Suddenly, he was quicker with his reads, more poised in the pocket, and making smarter decisions that led to fewer turnovers and hero ball mistakes. And for the first time in years, the perception of Darnold had shifted. Fans were now seeing a new version of Sam Darnold: efficient, composed, in command of the offense, and most importantly, winning. In his lone season in Minnesota, Darnold threw for 319 yards with 35 touchdowns, while leading the Vikings to a 14-3 record as a legitimate MVP candidate. Despite a disappointing playoff exit, the Vikings' 24 season could widely be viewed as a success, thanks in large part to Darnold's play that year, which set him up long-term in free agency. Off the back of his success in Minnesota, Darnold cashed in by signing a 3-year, $100 million contract with the Seahawks ahead of the 25 season, and this time, he came in as the unquestioned starting quarterback. With the team making it clear that he was their guy, Seattle gave him the reins to lead the offense and continue his career resurgence. However, when Darnold arrived in Seattle, there were still some skeptics, questioning whether his breakout year was a fluke and just a product of having played in a system that catered to his abilities. Despite a slight dip in passing touchdowns from the previous year, Darnold's overall play in 2025 left little doubt about whether last season was a one-off performance. After quickly adapting to the offense, he once again surpassed 4,000 passing yards with 25 touchdowns, while demonstrating full command of the system, and more importantly, continuing to pile up wins. Led by their dominant defense and Darnold under center, everything clicked for the Seahawks as they cruised through the regular season. Seattle went on to finish the year at 14-3, clinching the number 1 seed in the conference and firmly establishing themselves as clear-cut Super Bowl contenders. That being said, for all of Sam Darnold's success over the previous 2 years, there was still one lingering question: could he get it done in the playoffs? His lone playoff game with the Vikings offered a glimpse of the old Darnold, as the offense sputtered and the mistakes that once defined his early career resurfaced. However, unlike the previous year, he stayed composed throughout the postseason, calm under pressure, decisive with the football, and most importantly, mistake-free. Seattle went on to dominate the 49ers 41-6 in the divisional round, before surviving a tight shootout with the Rams to capture the conference title in a game where Darnold threw for nearly 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. And just like that, the unthinkable had happened. Just a few years after being labeled one of the most disappointing draft picks in recent memory, Sam Darnold had led his team to the Super Bowl. With the stage now set, Darnold was on the cusp of completing his miraculous comeback in Super Bowl 60 against the very team that once had him seeing ghosts. Just as he'd done all season long, Darnold once again stepped up to the plate. Although he didn't light up the stat sheet, he continued to play his part perfectly. Backed by Seattle's ferocious defense, Darnold's poise and decision-making on the biggest stage guided Seattle to their first Super Bowl title in over a decade, completing one of the most remarkable career turnarounds in league history. When looking back at Sam Darnold's journey in the NFL, it truly is a story of resilience and growth. He entered the NFL as a highly touted rookie, expected to save a struggling franchise, but was thrust into a rocky situation with high expectations, little support, and no stability. However, when things looked their worst, instead of giving up, Darnold continued to improve. By being patient and humbling himself, he gave himself the chance to reset, rebuild his confidence, and refine his game. Eventually, he found the right situation with the team and system that allowed him to fully unlock his potential. From a once overhyped prospect, labeled a bust, to now a Super Bowl champion, Sam Darnold's journey became one of the greatest redemption stories the league has ever seen. Time will tell how the rest of his career unfolds, but one thing is already clear: Sam Darnold proved that the story isn't over just because people think it is. On that note, that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know your thoughts on Sam Darnold down below in the comments. Please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. I truly appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.